Okay, hello everybody. Let's see here. Are we? Yeah, all right. Live from Denver. It's Friday night. Hey everybody. It is Chris Shelton and Melissa Huff joining you live from Denver, Colorado for another lively installment of Critical Conversations. The show where we basically get to let our hair down, even though I got a haircut this week, but you know, and her hair is up, but you know, figuratively speaking, we get to let our hair down. Oh, good. Chat box is working. This thing has been stressing me out for the last couple of weeks. The chat that you see on the side. Am I pointing? Yeah, this way. Over there. Okay, on this side of the screen. Doesn't start going until the show starts, until I turn on the go live. And that is a source of stress for me. Anyway, hey, Ireland. All right. Yes, Melissa is back. And
yes, hello.
What's that?
I just said hello.
Yes. And let's see, there's our little magic 7. 7 the Wonder Cat. Now that is, do you want to tell the story of the box?
Well, it's basically his box now.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, we've used it for a lot of different things, trying to use it, and it's his now.
Yeah, he literally just took that. It's a pink little crate box and plastic. Purple. And it got turned on its side, or somehow that happened, and he just took it over.
Yeah.
And he lays in there all the time, and we can't quite figure out the appeal exactly, except it's a space and it's down on ground level, and so it's his. And that's basically how he kind of deals with that.
We have one of those bookshelves that's the little squares from IKEA, and there's an empty square he could go lay in, but he always lays in the one where there's 2 cameras sitting there.
That's right.
Just because he needs that.
Well, it's like this little, it's like a sort of barrier or shield or something.
Yeah.
I mean, we can see him; he's right there, but he kind of hides behind it. He's just such a silly. He's a silly cat. He is a silly cat in the same way. In Monty Python and the Holy Grail, they were saying Camelot's a silly place. Silly place. 7 is a silly cat. All right. So call-in line tonight, by the way, I will lead with this, is 984-214-4154, and those phone lines are open. So if you would like to call and talk with us, we would be more than happy to talk to you. That is the point of the show. And you know, I tend to go on and on. So if you at any point want to jump in, you go right ahead.
Okay.
Okay. And you guys too. And especially, I'm gonna admit something publicly now. I'm gonna say this out loud. Maybe I shouldn't.
Uh-oh.
But this is the show where I get to let my hair down, right? I just said it. So this is the show where I get to be a little bit more informal than it's not like I get really stiff and formal and all starchy collared when I do my Q&A show or my podcast, but this show in particular I've decided is the one where I'm just really going to chill. And so, you know, sometimes I might have even partaken of the bud a bit, the herb, the calming influence. Let's put it that way, because I thought we would definitely make a point that, you know, here in Colorado it is completely legal and totally okay to smoke pot, or you know, the marijuana.
Yeah. Or eat it.
Cannabis, whatever. Yeah, eat it, drink it, smoke it, whatever you want to do. And I got to say that it has definitely been helpful in this whole lockdown isolation months of not fun experiences. Yeah. You know, I'm pretty sure some of you guys out there might have, 420, that's right. 420, it's always 420 somewhere. And I think, anyway, it's definitely been a useful implement in our ability to be chill here. Yeah, I haven't experienced quite anything quite exactly like this. Well, I mean, I guess in years, the RPF kind of. I mean, in terms of being, you know, stuck in a place you can't get out of, and you don't have the right to go outside all the time, and you don't have the right to do whatever you want or talk to whoever you want to. Kind of similar, you know. Though that wasn't a fun time, and neither has this been. But you know, this is why the big difference though is that this time I got alcohol and pot.
Yeah.
And a wife who loves me. And a cat who we both love dearly.
Yes.
So this is so much better than that. I should, speedily hasten to point out here. All right, now, as far as the topic of the show tonight, let me first update you guys on my college, on university work. You want to hear about that? Because this week was kind of interesting. Last couple of weeks have been a little interesting. Yeah, the Sea Org would never let you do pot. Exactly. Never. Just keeping up with the comments as we go here. Yeah, that's for sure. Paranoia strikes. Anyway, the last couple of weeks, I've got my my list of all the lectures and stuff on the wall behind me back there. And we were covering gangs and stuff this week, and then interestingly, even in the research methods module, we were also getting into cognition and emotion and qualitative research methods and various ways that qualitative work is done. In other words, if you're not running numbers, if you're doing a survey broadly of a bunch of people, or you're doing interviews with people, and you're collecting this, anecdotal information or factual information, but not in a numbered format, what do you do with it? How do you analyze that information? Is there some science to it? Some scientific method that you can apply? Well, apparently so. It's called qualitative analysis. And or qualitative methods of doing this. And so you're looking at the quality of the answers, or how the answers are coming across and categorizing them and stuff like that. So very interested in that, and that was a pretty interesting lecture. Actually, I won't get into all the specifics of it because that's kind of boring to talk about. But the gang stuff was not. And today we covered gangs, and gangs are a kind of cultic environment, if you think about it, right? With a violence component added in for the, in most situations. We also talked today about some pretty horrible stuff in regards to trafficking, human trafficking. Both, child trafficking, sexual trafficking, where it goes on, human slavery, modern day. According to some statistics, there are more slaves now than there have ever been.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, there's more people than there have ever been, too. So it's not to say percentage-wise that there is a higher percent of the population that is in slavery, but the number of people who are somehow held in bondage or servitude or circumstances that they do not have the power of choice of movement, of their free expression of their human rights. Lots and lots. We're talking millions and millions and millions of people around the world, from Ireland to the United States to India to Bangladesh and everywhere in between. So that was grim to get some of the statistics and learn about some of that. But of course, technique-wise, when it comes to coercive control and the methods of recruitment, retainment, activity, right? Driving people up, riling them up to a violent state of mind, to a radicalized, if you will, state of mind. All that goes on in gangs. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot of layers of very complicated psychology going on. And I think if anything we're going to prove how organic of a process coercive control can be, or narcissistic control, right? A high control group, let's say. How does that happen? Does the cult leader have to study Jim Jones and study Waco and study L. Ron Hubbard? No. For the most part, it's kind of an organic process. You learn how to manipulate people by growing up in the school of hard knocks, because people have triggers, and the psychology tells us what a lot of those triggers are. And you form up a group around common cause, and you get people riled up, and you introduce us versus them, and it's our way or the highway, and boom, there you go. Roll your own cult. Just that fast, just that easy. And, street cults or street gangs,
Gangs.
of course, tend to be, not heavily militarized, organized, units.
Right.
But as they grow, I imagine that the organizing board or structure for the Crips and the Bloods might be a bit involved.
Yeah.
They probably have a bit of an interesting structure. So, yeah, Jonestown on the news everywhere. That's right. So anyway, pretty interesting stuff. Getting into that, there are two areas that we've covered so far on the study that I didn't necessarily. I'm not surprised by, but I didn't particularly see coming as something we were going to really dive into, and that was partner violence, interpersonal violence, domestic violence as a real key topic, and then gangs, and I knew we would get into trafficking. I knew we would get into slavery and stuff like that. But it's a grim study, man. It's not,
Yeah.
it's fun to learn new things and get clarity on certain things that I've experienced or I've seen or wanted to help others with. So it's fun, quote unquote, in that to that degree that there is learning going on and a sort of clarity that comes with that. But it's not fun in terms of the subject matter,
Hmm.
But it sure is fascinating. Oh, okay. Here's a question that we can take up that it definitely fits in here. And then I see you, caller. We will get to you in just a moment. Perfect. Sorry, I've had you on hold there for a minute while I was pontificating about my courses. Dreaming Cat Studios asking, do we consider some of the followers of our current president as cult members?
Yes.
If we're referring to Donald Trump, our current president, not Joe Biden, our president-elect, then yes, absolutely. I got a whole book back here by Steve Hassan,
Yeah.
breaking it down. And I will stress, as I always do, because this is really important, not everybody who supports Trump is a cultist. Not everybody who voted for him is a cultist. It's not that same headspace. And we got to be real clear about that. We're talking about a cult headspace has specific characteristics to it. And just because you argue with the person over politics doesn't make them a cultist. So, gonna throw that out
the
there.
fact that so many people still support him after he's done so much. I mean, doesn't that kind of make them a little culty, that they just, blinders on?
Yes, it depends a lot on how much freedom of thought there is to agree or disagree with the man.
Yeah.
Because if it's only agreement, if it can't be anything else but agreement,
Hmm.
if his way is the only way, it's Trump's way or the highway, right? The black and white thinking, the us versus them, that's integral. That's key to it. Otherwise, you just have supporters or fans. It's a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
And the line that gets crossed is the line of, I can no longer doubt this person's word.
Right.
Right. And not from a point of view of it's being enforced on me that I can't doubt it.
It's just,
I no longer want to.
yeah.
Right. That choice gets made. Excuse me. Haven't I just described the White House? This White House, yeah, pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah. The people who have put themselves around this man and have decided to hitch their wagon to his star have to adapt to that environment, right? Trump creates this environment around him. It's not because he's president. It's who he is. He's always been this way, and he's always had people kind of like this in his zone. So, when he becomes president, he just starts playing everybody, and then it becomes, absolutely crazy. All right, let us see who is on the phone here, because we are keeping them on hold too long. Is this Chad? Hello.
Yeah, hey, how you doing, Chris?
Hey, good, man. Thanks for holding for so long. Sorry about that.
No problem. I'm a truck driver, and I'm driving across the turnpike in Ohio, so I got plenty of time.
Awesome. Well,
Hey,
welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I love listening to you. I have been for years. Hey, anyways, my question dovetails pretty easily into what you're talking about. Now, when I left the Sea Org, It took me a few years before I would really delve into read stuff that was negative. I still had a little bit of that fear that I think you're aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like you jumped right in. And we all have different. With the internet, it seems like it's quicker for the Kool-Aid to wear off, if that makes sense.
Yep.
And okay. So I've had this question all week, and then I saw you were live, and I thought, perfect. I can ask Crystal. Crystal has some good information on this.
Bring it. Awesome.
So, with Trump leaving office, there's a lot of people who act cult-like. Now, how long when I left, I'm no longer, L. Ron Hubbard no longer has that control over me, nor does the Sea Org or my old seniors or any of my old bosses in Scientology. I could see them on the street now, and there would be no control over me. Now, how long do you think so the Kool-Aid's wore off on me.
Mm-hmm.
And how long do you think it'll take, on average, as Trump goes out of the limelight, or you could talk about, you even need to take the cult or Trump or Scientology or Trumpite before it wears off on those, what I'm talking about, the cult-like followers.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, it totally does. I totally get your question, right? How long until the Trump effect wears off, right?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Or the Scientology effect.
Exactly.
Because you were actually pretty quick, Chris.
Well, I appeared to be. And
you definitely appeared.
Right. So let's be clear, because I thought I kind of was too, until I went a little bit further down the road and realized how far I had to go, right? So
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, you know how that goes. Some days are better than others, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
but any day is better than a day back in the Sea Org.
Goddamn right it is. Goddamn right. Okay, so
I'm gonna get off the air and I'm gonna get off the air and listen to you. Okay.
Oh, cool, man. All right, cool. Well, thank you for that question.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for being there. Bye bye.
All right. Bye bye. All right. Good. Let's go ahead and answer this then, because this is a good question. And the answer, you guys are going to hate me, but the answer is it's going to depend. So what's it going to depend on? Well, it's going to depend a lot on what Trump does and what happens to him and how it happens to him. Right? We've seen with the FLDS that you can go to jail and you can run your cult from inside jail.
Yep.
So, so it's not necessarily hinging on, would Trump be prosecuted? Would Trump go to jail? Possibly. I mean, these things possibly could be in the future. They might not be. None of us really know right now. But we do know that SDNY, right, the Southern District of New York, definitely has cases going. They have already started investigations. They already shut down his nonprofit, Trump Foundation, because he was raiding it like a, candy jar. And hatred of Trump, with the whole hatred of white man, isn't going anywhere in the yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it depends an awful lot on how long it takes Trump to fall out of the public eye. If he's still making headlines, which he will, I'm positive for quite a while. He's a headline grabber. He wants that. So he's always going to be trying to, insert himself into the public discourse. He's an attention whore that way. So I don't think he's going to just disappear and go off on, to some, Jeffrey Epstein-like island or something, and we never hear from him again. That would be so out of character for him. So I think he's going to continue to feed this base, and we'll get clarity pretty fast on how big this base actually is, because it's been a little hard to tell, because once he moves out of political life, then the people who have been supporting him purely for political reasons will not do that anymore, unless they think he's going to try to make a new run in 2024. But I think that's a pipe dream. I don't think that's in his future. Okay. Yeah, he definitely never admits that he's doing anything wrong. That's for sure. It's part of the package with him. So anyway, I guess what I'm saying is, in terms of how long the people who follow him in a cult headspace right now could continue to follow him, I'm gonna say at least a year. Even if he didn't do anything, that would still go on. And I'm actually going to be paying a lot of attention to QAnon because I don't know what's going to happen with that. And I'm very, very curious. I could see it going a lot of different directions. So, does QAnon die when he leaves office in January, or does it take on a whole new life with a whole new spin? Or does QAnon go in a different direction and leave Trump behind? Because that's a possibility. QAnon is about Q and about deep state. And yes, Trump's supposed to be the savior figure. But if Trump disappears out of public life or out of political life, then how's he supposed to pull that off? So, so QAnon could go in all kinds of interesting directions too. And there could be a QAnon future where Trump is not part of it. I guess we're going to have to wait and see where that goes. But that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Any comments I should be tracking with on that?
They're all pretty much kind of saying the same stuff you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, cool. Good. Well, alrighty then. So I hope that answers. I mean, like I said, I'm always going to be given the long-winded, open-ended answers. And it's only going to get worse as I get more academically trained here, which is awful. But at the same time, it's kind of more honest. So I hope you want honesty over, I hope you want substance over style, because I can give you bullshit thought-stopping cliches as answers, but I don't think those are what you guys watch me for. So I don't really want to do that. Yeah, I forgot what QAnon is. Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. We'll see if it fizzles. I'm not so sure. It's got there's a lot of vectors of attention on that thing to keep that thing going. All right. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. And again, call-in line is 984-214-4154. And I wanted to talk about something that was a little interesting that I didn't see coming or didn't quite expect with the college university experience that I thought you guys might be interested in because it directly relates to my Scientology experience. And this might surprise you a little bit, actually. It did me. And that is learning and how you learn at this level versus how I'm used to learning from Scientology and from my life. Because Scientology, of course, was my life. And teaching Scientology was a very big part of that life. I was a course supervisor, the equivalent of a teacher. And I spent years, not days, not weeks, not months, years, 7 days a week in Santa Barbara, and then later in the Sea Org, supervising classrooms. And it was a crime to let somebody a student walk out of that classroom, finish a course, and not understand some part of it. It was a Scientology Justice Code crime to allow a single word to be misunderstood in any of the materials that student had studied. That's how microscopic we were about watching these guys. And the course, all the study tech and all that stuff was what was brought to bear in order to do that, to accomplish that. And so we were micromanaging these guys, and it was too much. It was way too much. And you've heard me, or if you haven't, check out my Sensibly Speaking podcast episode about training, because I spent like 2 or 3 hours here explaining the whole thing and breaking it all down. It's complicated. There's a lot to it. That's not my point. My point is that I was used to that style of learning. And I've been applying that all my life, including since I left Scientology.
Right.
When I tell you guys I do a deep dive, that means I go deep. I read a book or books. I read articles. I read studies. I watch videos. I go all in and try to figure out the basics of and situation with whatever it is I'm doing a deep dive on, and I go all in on it. And when I'm doing that, I take care to make sure that I understand all the points and that it all makes sense to me, and And it sort of paints this, this sort of mental picture of understanding of this topic. And that's how I'm used to learning stuff. And I'm a careful learner that way. So imagine my surprise when I get to this and the attitude is not what I had, not that at all. It is basically fire hosing you with data, and it's up to you to pick it up, right? It's kind of, okay, there's the water all over the floor. Now grab a mop and start mopping, right? And start scrubbing it up. Because it's on you. You got to get it, right? We're not going to sit here and feed it to you in a cup and make sure you have it and check in with you and, and all of that. And I wasn't expecting that level of individual attention. Like I said, Scientology, like everything, takes it too far, dials it up to 11. But I did expect a little bit more than what I have been getting. And so part of this has been difficult adjusting to that style of learning and receiving information, right, from lecturers. And yeah, don't do clay demos. No clay in this room. But I definitely have had to adjust to that. So that's been a bit rough. And I thought you guys might find that interesting only because of the compare contrast. I still am a careful student myself personally, but I'm having to adapt to the whole fire hose method of here's the data, you figure it out, sort of thing. All right. When they are old, are they still able to collect social? Polly asked, can old Sea Org members get Social Security? Yeah, they do. They do pay into it. We all paid into it. Okay. Okay, now let's get to the topic of the show here tonight. Does critical thinking have methods to guard against statistics being manipulated to mislead people? Well, we're going to go over a little bit of education on that tonight. I thought it might be a little bit fun to tackle statistical fallacies. So that's actually what I thought we would go into tonight, because the show, I promoted the show as Lies, Damn Lies, and Statistics, a quote famously attributed to Mark Twain, but actually might be Benjamin Disraeli or somebody else.
Okay.
I know you were on tenterhooks waiting for that word. Anyway, so statistics. I've also had to learn some statistics on my university coursework, and that was again another deep dive for me. So it got interesting to me while I was learning about it to see and hear the numerous ways that statistics can be utilized incorrectly or be presented incorrectly or even be calculated incorrectly, all indicators of bias, right? People want the answers that they want. They want the worldview that they want.
And they make the stuff fit to match it instead of the other way around.
That's right. Exactly. Even that guy. Even he will only see the world he actually wants to see or needs to see according to his past experience. Right? And I'm trying to, I realize I sometimes over-explain this stuff, so I'm trying to keep it simple. But I thought, what we're talking here about, of course, is the first fallacy regarding the use of numbers and statistics, and that fallacy is called cherry picking.
Yep.
Right? The practice of selecting, and I'm taking this from Gecko Board, from an article I just pulled up at random. There are many articles out there that can inform you about the various kinds of fallacies, logical fallacies, ways we screw up our thinking connected to numbers and statistics. And one of the most basic ones is that we really don't, the exceptions are few and far between, but generally speaking, we are really bad at estimating things numerically.
Oh, yeah.
Really bad, like shockingly bad once you actually start running numbers. I won't tell you the whole example of how I've been keeping track of the dice rolls in when we play Trouble, but we both would be absolutely sure. I'm pretty sure 1 and 6 come up more than anything else.
Yeah.
But they don't, because I've been keeping track of it. and entering it into a spreadsheet as a statistical exercise. And 1 and 6 on this particular dice on this game we play actually come up least. They've come up less numbers of times than 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's just a fact. I wrote them down and then I put them in a computer. But perceptually, 1 and 6 are more significant in the game. The game is trouble. So 1 means you basically don't get to move, and 6 is a double turn. So guess who remembers 1 and 6 more often?
Yep.
Because it's more significant, right? But it's a logical fallacy to think 1 and 6 come up more often just because we remember them more often. Huge, huge, huge thing. All right. If I have learned about the Weber-Fechner law, I do not know it by name. All right, now, another way, and I am interested, by the way, this is, I will say again, 984-2144 and 54. I would love to hear statistical anomaly stories, misdirections, whatever from you guys too. But I'm just going to keep going down this list because you know, that's where we're at right now. So the next fallacy, and again, fascinating stuff, data dredging. Data dredging, the failure to acknowledge that the correlation made in the statistics was actually a result of chance. Now check this out. Here's the simple explanation. Let's say you're number crunching 2 bodies of information to find similarities between them, but the 2 bodies of information are really, really big bodies of information, lots of numbers, lots of data, and you crunch these things together, sure that there must be some correlation, but you haven't decided first what correlation are you actually looking for. You're just throwing them together and seeing what happens, and then you're going to take the result of that. That's called data dredging. That's not a good idea. Because that's a chance connection. Here's the thing. Tests for statistical significance only work if you've defined your hypothesis up front. Right? Otherwise, you're doing data dredging. You're just randomly looking for correlations in the information, data where here and here goes together. Well, guess what? You'll find them randomly. And if you've ever heard about correlation is not causation, does not indicate causation, just because 2 things parallel one another statistically doesn't mean they have anything to do with each other.
Exactly.
Right?
They're just 2 numbers. I mean,
that's right.
Without that connecting line to say, well, why are they both going up at the same time or going down at the same time?
That's right.
You don't know.
Exactly. And there's a really good website for the correlation causation thing. The one I remember off the top of my head, I think there's another one later here, but the one I remember is pool drownings, people who drown in pools, statistically kept, you know, like how many people over time. And the relative or the gross income of Nicolas Cage movies. Apparently, those 2 statistics laid one over the other. The graphs look the same or parallel. They correlate, but one does not have anything to do with the other. Okay. Another statistical flaw that we think of or get wrong is called survivorship bias. And this is interesting. The survivorship bias is when you're analyzing data, it's important to ask yourself what data you don't have. Right? Out of sight, out of mind. We all make this mistake. If it's not there, you don't think of it unless you're specifically, carefully making sure that you think of it. Because it's not there for you to think about or for to trip the circuitry in the brain, right? So sometimes the full picture is obscured because the data you've got has survived a selection of some sort. For example, in this article, in World War II, a team was asked where the best place was to fit armor to a plane. Where should we put the armor? The planes that came back from battle had bullet holes everywhere except the engine and the cockpit.
Huh.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. The team decided it was best to fit armor where there were no bullet holes because planes that were shot in those places didn't come back. If you got shot in the cockpit or you got shot in the engines, we didn't see you again.
Right, right.
Those planes weren't there to be examined
because they
because,
couldn't count them because
right? Survivorship bias, right? If you only focus on what's in front of you, you might miss the most obvious and important thing about the whole picture. So, pretty crafty, pretty clever, that one, I think. All right. And we have a caller here, Mark. Hello.
Yes. Yeah. I've been watching your podcast, for pretty much since then when they talk about all the crap that Scientology has dished out, and it kind of reminds me. I didn't have the best childhood. Unfortunately, I had Charles Manson for a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And all he cared about was he's too dumb and competent to do anything himself. So he just started. That's all he did was exploit me and make his perverted fantasy come true. He just didn't know. He just treated me like dog shit pretty much the whole life. He doesn't beat me with his fist, he beat me with his mouth.
Wow, man, that's rough.
If I had a nickel for every time he beat me, I'd be making Bill Gates look like a Skid Row bum.
Man, I'm sorry, man. That sucks.
And then 30-some odd years ago, he found out I had a thing for horses, so he thought he had gold mines, so he manipulated me to join the horsey club, and it was all what I call downhill from there.
Mm.
For 3 years, he just thought he'd just beat and bitch me, becoming some sort of horsey rider, and nothing. He thought he could beat me, starve me, sleep deprivation. The whole Nazi rule book.
Damn, man.
And when this nightmare finally came to an end, he is convinced that I could have become the greatest horse rider that ever lived if I really wanted to. I lost the purpose of his fantasy, and I got an older sister. When she started having a family, I got two nieces. They're all grown now, but back when they're kids, he just beat into them how stupid and worthless and useless I am. He never passed up an opportunity to make me look like a dumbass in front of them.
Right.
He's been. I swear, he's trying to say something good about my dad. It's like trying to say something good about the Holocaust.
Right. I get it. Is he still around?
And
is he still alive?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Are you still in touch with him? I hear you. Are you still in touch with him?
Hell no. I just want my hands cleaned of him. He's been. He just like his mouth is hooked up to a sewer main. He just every time he opens his mouth, nothing but just shit pours out. He's incapable of saying anything positive, and it seems like no matter how competent I get at something, it doesn't matter what it is. He always treats me like I don't know my head from my ass.
Right.
And I've been around horses, one of them met her for 30 years now, and my dad thinks he thinks he's some sort of horse god. But he's been very careful. Make sure he never has to prove he hates horse stables because he's scared to death. He comes across a seasoned horse person that it can't BS.
Right.
They'll know they'll know that he's a fraud.
Right.
And that's one thing he doesn't want people to know he's a fraud. That's why he stays around. I mean, yet I'm about as comfortable at a stable as you can imagine. And I found out that he 2 years ago I found out he has cancer, and I told my sister when he finally dies, don't bother telling me because I won't give a shit.
I can see why.
Yeah.
And like I said, man, I'm sorry, man. That sucks that you had that situation there.
yeah, and now and he's also in a I don't know exactly how to spell it, but he's an anti-Semite.
Mm-hmm.
He hates Jews, and one of my best friends is Jewish, and I keep wondering, and I know that he came head to head with that he try, my dad, he's so two-faced. When he's behind closed doors, he's Charles Manson. When he's out in public, he tries to be Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I hear you.
And if he tried shake my Jewish friend, he'd probably want to chop it off later, chop his hand off. He just
right.
And I think he's jealous of me because I can do things like because I'm social and in his ways he can never be capable of.
Right.
Like just recently, some guy stalled his engine out mid of an intersection. Had a bad battery, so couldn't restart it. And luckily I was able to give the guy a quick jump in a semi on his way, so he's not blocking intersection. My dad was just drove around and kept going.
Wow.
And so
I tell you, man, this sounds pretty rough. Did you have how long has it been since you've seen him?
About maybe 2006.
Oh, good. So that's a good long time to be away from that. Have you had any kind of... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I've just told to wash my hands of him. I'm sick of him. He truly thinks the only thing, he thinks the only thing I deserve is a fist in the face and an empty wallet.
Right.
Wow.
He just doesn't know. He's been treating me as dog shit since I was 7 years old.
Yeah, man.
He just doesn't know. And he turns around, treats my sister, my nieces, like a bunch of goddesses. But then he treats around and treats me like he's something forgot to flush down the toilet.
Right. Yeah, we see that kind of thing sometimes, this sort of selective, rewards and penalties kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people get the goods and other people get the bads, kind of thing. That's rough, man. I'm glad you got away from that. Have you had any opportunity to talk to other people about this professionally besides, you calling me tonight? No, just one of the kid. I was not your average normal kid. My dad wanted me a 1950s kid. I wasn't being that, so he'd drag me to this kiddie shrink place, and they would sit down. These people would just attack me. They would make these so-called kiddie shrinks. They would just make me out to be the bad guy. My dad's confidence was never. They never questioned him. Wow.
I was always a bad guy.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, back when I was a kid, when you're branded a retard, at school could see nothing more than busted goods, and they would call my dad and let me. They would stick these school kiddie shrinks were basically the school's back pocket. These kiddie, one of these kiddie shrinks, school kiddie shrinks, thought that because of being left-handed is a sign of retardation.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, one of those things. Old school crap.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, man, I would like to hear more from you, but I'm going to have to kind of move on right now because of the constraints of the show. Can you email me? Can you do that?
Yeah, I could try.
Well, I'd like to talk to you more. I would just like to do it off air. So we can arrange another phone call, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah. So, Okay.
All right. I mean, I want to hear everything you have to say. I just don't know that this is the appropriate place to have this full conversation. So that's why I'm.
I'm just allergic to shrinks. I've had my fill of them.
I get it. I totally get that. And that's why I want to talk to you more, because maybe we can see, what other options might be there for you, or how we might go about figuring out if there's anything to address still,
Yeah, and unfortunately, he has my sister, and
yeah,
the carnage, that he's left behind. He doesn't have any guilt or shame about it.
No, and he's not going to. What you've described is literally, you've checked off every box of classic narcissist personality disorder and toxicity in a intimate relationship, including violence. You've described a pretty bad situation, and I really feel for you on this, and I'm really glad you got away from it. You can see it for what it is. And now you got sisters who maybe can't, and, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
All right, man. Thanks for calling in. I really appreciate it. And I want to hear, and I want to talk to you more. All right. So send me that email.
Okay.
All right, man. Talk to you.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Let me. I think it's Henny.
Oh, okay.
Hello? Hello? No, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. I think that was Henny, and Henny, I need you to call me back. Okay. All right. And Mark, you too. I want you to email me. Seriously. I would like to take that more up with you on that. I would just like to, I think it's going to take more time than we have here tonight. And that's why I wanted to redirect that call, okay? I don't have any problem talking to you. I just want to do it in the right format. Okay. Cool. Man. We were on statistical fallacies. Now, okay. Caller queue is empty, which is fine. And I'm going to go over a couple more of these, and we'll see if we get another caller or someone else.
Yeah.
Oh, and, of course, let's get a blast of 7. 7 blast. There he is. See, this is what he does. Like for hours, he will sit in that little crate, and he'll sleep in there. He will watch us in there.
Yeah.
He'll sort of watch TV kind of from in there.
Yeah.
He's just funny that way. And about 2 feet to the left of this is the IKEA shelf. Yeah, that he also will get up into there. So, all right. Okay, what's this now? Okay, looks like it's Henny again. Hello?
Hello, Chris. Can you hear me now?
Yes, much better. Thanks for clearing that up, Henny.
Oh, you're welcome. I try so hard. I have headphones and they don't work. I try new headphones and they don't work.
Oh, no.
So now I'm just doing it random. And I can actually see you, which is nice. Hello, Melissa.
Hello.
You're beautiful. It's so nice to see you, honey.
Thank you.
And I wanted to say, first of all, I am so glad that you let your hair down, because my hair been down since I started the show.
Excellent.
Okay? I just never said anything, but I'm so glad that we're all in the same party.
Yes.
And yes. And I was listening to the lies and statistics and the things that you were trying to explain.
Yep.
And I was trying to understand what you exactly meant. What I thought of when you were saying was like, could it be like a homicide that's committed, but there's no body?
Oh, yeah, I saw your comment on that. Not exactly, because a homicide by definition involves a dead body, right? Somebody died. So not having the body there would be something you'd want to deal with right away. That would not necessarily be the same thing. It would be more like, if you had a dead body there and you only check to see if the person had been strangled. And yet it could have been that the guy was poisoned or
has 5 stab wounds.
Right, or something like that. And you're not looking over there. You're just paying attention to one other thing and deciding that's the only thing that's important to look at. It might be more the flavor of what I was talking about.
Okay, I dig what you're saying. I get it now.
Cool.
Okay, that's cool.
Cool.
That's really cool. And I just wanted to touch on, if I could.
Yeah.
Because we always, I don't know, I love to discuss cults because it's so,
Bring it.
you know, just in our society in so many different ways, you know?
Oh, my God,
but
yes.
This, what I meant by the cult of Trump, which is a book I'm reading, which I know you know of, that Stephen Hassan wrote.
Yep.
Okay, it's amazing how the similarities are of a person who is a cult member, not a member, more of the person itself. You know what I mean? The members, you know, that's another whole thing in itself.
Oh yeah.
Because if you took a Hitler, let's say, okay, and you tried to find anyone who agreed with his beliefs, you wouldn't find anyone. Do you follow what I mean?
You mean
no
Trump's
one
beliefs?
Would stand up and say, yes, I believed in what he proposed. Mostly people are not going to say that, but it exists anyway. And that's what scares me, is that even though we have a new president and, you know, people really came out and stood up, that there continues to be a very big number of people who continue to believe in this way of thinking.
Yes. Well, I think, and let me know if I'm right here. I think what you're describing is the cult of personality. The fact that they're connected to him as a person, so anything he says is good. Is that what you mean?
Yes, but it can be so dangerous. In other words, Chris, he knew that this was a dangerous disease, a virus that had come and spread, right?
Yep.
Okay. And yet, when the reporters were there questioning him, he said to the reporter, I saw him say it, take off your mask.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to me, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
why,
I mean,
this is.
The reason he did it is because he likes to throw his power around. Mm-hmm. But yes.
Yeah, but you see, that power is deathly.
Correct.
And he knew that it was deathly.
Correct.
And when you know something is deathly and you put somebody in that exact line of fire, so to speak, you're responsible.
Yep.
You are responsible.
I would agree.
I don't think that they'll punish him. I don't. I just don't.
Not for that.
But regardless, he is still responsible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a fact. Yeah, moral responsibility is a very different thing from legal responsibility. Mm-hmm. That I don't
even know if that's moral. It has anything to do with morality, Chris. That has nothing to do with morality. This is a human being knowing that there is death and is instructing people to accept that death. Even in his rallies, Chris.
Yes.
Even in his rallies, they're made to sign. Are they not? Paperwork. How fucking Scientological is that? Sign paperwork that you can't sue me if you die.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's nothing to do with morality. I don't know what that. First of all, it's insanity that anyone would put themselves in that position. Whatever your belief is.
Well, that's the thing, though, right? Because but you understand that people who are in that mindset aren't thinking the way you're thinking. You know that, right? Like the danger is negligible. The danger doesn't exist. There are people in southern Colorado. I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
There are people in this state right now who literally, I'm not even being hyperbolic, I'm not even like playing around, like they actually don't believe COVID exists. After all of this, they really still don't believe it. I mean, you're talking about people who are in a different world. They're looking at the world a whole different way than you are. You know what I mean?
So those are like the people who don't believe that the Holocaust happened.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a level of, twisting reality to fit the way you need to see the world. That's what goes on.
So many, Chris.
Yeah, it's scary.
That's what scares me.
Yeah, me too. It scares me too.
I mean, I believe in the yin and the yang. I know there has to be. That's just the way it is. Okay, you can't separate the two. That's but I do believe that there's more good. I believe that. And I know that that's true. Yep. But there's so many. Yeah. There's so many people who are thinking in this way that's, to me, I mean, I was glad that the reporter said no, he would not take off his mask.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
He would speak louder.
Exactly.
But he wasn't, one of these, I guess, people that followed him.
Well, no, exactly. He's a reporter.
Continue to follow him.
Exactly. He's not a Trumpster.
Exactly.
And, exactly. Now I'm gonna really mess with you right now, but I'm not messing with you. But I'm gonna tell you something.
I better take a hit. Go ahead.
Well, it's like this, right? Which is
go ahead.
All right. So, here's the thing about this I can't believe they think that way thing, right? Is actually the truth, Henny, is we all think that way. We just think that way about different things. And not all of us are dialed up to 11. That's the main thing, right? Is they take this stuff. We all have got our twisted little views of things, but this is hyperbolic. It's dialed up. But I only say that so that we will all be careful and check ourselves and check our own ability to fall into those traps, because it's easy to do for any of us. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So that's all. I wasn't trying to mess with you. I was just sort of kidding there. But, it's like, it's not just them. You know what I mean? We're all like that.
No. Listen, I always say we.
Yeah.
Okay? E pluribus unum.
Exactly.
It's on every piece of money there is.
That's right.
Okay? E pluribus unum. In many, there is one.
Exactly.
And I always believe that. It's just that way of thinking is just, it's very different from mine. And it's not that, I don't, look, I know I'm a part of the human race, and I have to admit that, whether I like it or not.
Henny, okay, mark the date. Henny admitted she was human. Okay.
Oh, please, mark that. That's right. I'm other. When they ask you 100 things of what race you are, I always say, check other and put human. Okay, that's the only one it is. So I understand that probably better than anyone.
Of course.
But it's just that thinking is beyond me. Some I just don't think that way. I tend to try to be, like I say, more realist.
Exactly.
And for the benefit of everyone.
Right. And that's the critical thinking that you cherish and that we all need.
Yes.
Because we should. I mean, I sit here and talk about how, we have these things in our head and we're all going to, we could all be biased, but we're not in cults. We're not cult members like they are. And that does make it difficult to understand, because it's hard to deal with some of the stuff they say.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know.
Yeah, you're in New York.
But, you know, exactly. But I think that what keeps us together and not divided is knowing that and loving them and anyway. You know what I mean? And trying to help, because ultimately that our survival is what it is.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So
you got it, Henny.
Well, listen, I thank you. I love you guys. You know that. Give Seven a hug. Stay well. Have a very happy holiday. Okay? Even if it's just the three of you, may you three enjoy it.
It will be, and we will. Thank you, Henny.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Have a good night, guys. Bye-bye.
Good. Yes. Good, Henny. Always reliable there, and definitely making good points. Because I gotta say, you know, there's 70 million people who voted for Donald Trump. We're not going to exile them. We're not going to kill them. We're not going to set up firing squads. So we better start getting smart about what we're going to do to start building bridges and figuring this out. Because this country is not going to continue if we keep going down this path of division, and us versus them. And those people are so awful and terrible and horrible, I can't possibly even talk to them anymore. We got to get over ourselves with this, and we got to get them over themselves. And we have got to put our best foot forward here. Now is the time, you know, and I'm not talking about going to the deep cultists and going for them first. Don't set yourself up for a loss. Don't make it a big lose for yourself and then say, I tried. You know, start with the easy ones. Start with the people you want to mend friendships with. Start with your family and people you can actually talk to, not the crazy uncles.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking about the people that you can actually mend, you know, and rebuild a relationship with, or people you can reach out to and actually have a conversation with, a real live conversation. Don't try to do this shit online. It doesn't work in the chat box on a Facebook, you know, to change hearts and minds. It just doesn't work that way. The platforms themselves won't let you do it. It's set up that crazy, you know. So anyway, I don't want to get on a soapbox here and all that, but I'm just, you know, we've really got to heal this nation, and I see it as vital. I see it as absolutely vital. Exactly. I want to live in the United States, not the divided states of America. Exactly. All right, guys. Well, interesting stuff. I think we're going to start wrapping up here. We covered some fallacies, but we will, as tradition demands now, we will select our fallacy of the week. And this is from my wonderful deck of cards here of logical fallacies and cognitive biases. Okay, ways we screw up our thinking. If only it was this many ways.
I know, right?
Right? But this is a pretty good sample of how it is. All right. Here we go. The halo effect. Well, this was appropriate for tonight. The halo effect. How much you like someone or how attractive they are influences your other judgments of them. Would I judge you as harshly for eating my M&Ms as I would judge anybody else?
Probably not.
Exactly. Absolutely not. She definitely gets away with it, right? Whereas if some stranger came in or even a friend, right? But that's my logical fallacy. If you notice, here's the example they give. If you notice that you're giving consistently high or low marks across the boards, it's worth considering that your judgment may be suffering from the halo effect. All right, so use that in a sentence and think about it this week. That's your homework, kids. All right, raise you by a fallacy. Nice. All right, guys, this has been fun. Thank you very much for having us in your living room this evening, or in your truck as you're driving across the highways out there, Chad. And Mark, take it easy, man. Email me and we'll figure out a time to talk. All right. And with all of that, I think we will call it a day. Watch for the podcast tomorrow. I think you guys might like it. I talked to a couple religious theist believer type people who are themselves pushing back hard against cultic influences within the religious world. And we had a pretty interesting conversation. So watch for that tomorrow. All right, guys. Talk to you later.
Night.